Imagine this. You need something, you've paid for it, but you can't get it. You'd probably be frustrated, wouldn't you? Well, that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about 3 reasons why federal government flood insurance is bad for homeowners. But before we get started today's video, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to share, like, and subscribe to the channel so others can find the same valuable content. Hi, I'm Chris with the Flood Insurance Guru. More than a decade ago, I bought a home in a high-risk flood area, and I was required to get federal flood insurance, and it almost broke me. My closing almost fell apart. There was a lot of things wrong here. There was a lot of miscommunication. And today we're talking about 3 reasons why federal flood insurance is bad for homeowners. The first part we want to talk about is government shutdown, as we've dealt with it in 2018 and 2025. Guess what happens when the government shuts down? Let's say that you're buying a house in a special flood hazard area, also known as flood zone A, AE, or maybe V, and you're being required to get federal flood insurance. Guess what? You can't get it during a government shutdown. You can't even technically transfer your policy to another sub-buyer during a government shutdown. It's literally at a halt. This means what you've paid for, you can't actually use. You can't even get taken care of. So everything is on hold during a government shutdown. So that's just one reason why it's bad for homeowners. The second reason why federal flood insurance is bad for homeowners is because of transparency and pricing. You see, historically, as insurance agents, we had a pretty good idea of how flood insurance rates were determined. However, when Risk Rating 2.0 came out, they give you all these different factors, but they don't really tell you what contributes the most. Now, thankfully, after helping thousands of people across the country with their flood insurance needs, we can tell you here at the Flood Insurance Guru what we see as the biggest leading contributors, which typically are replacement costs, distance to water or a floodway, and the elevation of a property. However, the National Flood Insurance Program, which is the federal flood insurance program, does not tell us this. It just tells us things like distance to water, a whole list, like 5 or 6 different things, claims frequency, the type of flooding in your area, but they don't tell you the biggest factors here. And so we don't have trust there because there's no transparency when it comes to the pricing. The next thing is the out-of-date flood mapping. Look, this is what almost cost me my home, is I was actually placed in the wrong flood zone. My federal flood insurance was gonna be $3,000 a year, but it really should have been $300 a year. Now, thankfully, I was able to use an elevation certificate that showed that my house was above the base flood elevation. So I did what's called a letter of map amendment, and I changed my flood zone. But a lot of people either don't know how to do this, or maybe they don't have the money to get an elevation certificate. But their flood map may have not been updated in 10 years, 15 years. In fact, in some situations, we've seen 20 years. Imagine how much land development has changed in 20 years. That's pretty big, isn't it? So you see, federal flood insurance can be really bad for homeowners when it comes to things like transparency and pricing, outdated flood mapping, and a government shutdown when you're needing coverage the most. And I'm gonna give you a bonus reason why federal flood insurance also is bad for homeowners, and that is coverages. Let's just look at residential real quick. $250,000 on a building. How far is that really going to go on average across the country in 2025 and beyond? Not very far. Now let's look at potential loss assessment there. Are you getting actual cash value, or are you getting replacement cost there? That's something you want to know there. $100,000 on your contents coverage. But guess what? You don't get replacement cost on contents. You only get actual cash value. You see? So these are just some of the reasons why the federal flood insurance is bad for homeowners. But here's the good news for you. You can do exactly what I did, and that is, don't go with the National Flood Insurance Program. Don't go with federal flood insurance if it's not the best solution for you. In fact, in the description down below, you can download our guide on flood insurance, where we look at the National Flood Insurance Program and private, so you can decide which one's gonna be the best fit for you. I'm Chris with the Flood Insurance Guru, and I'm gonna say thank you for watching our video today on 3 reasons why federal flood insurance is bad for homeowners. Thank you.